Hi, my name is David Kindness. I'm a certified public accountant and one of OnPay's expert contributors, helping business owners and their employees make sense of complex tax and payroll topics, such as completing IRS forms like the one we'll talk about today. In this video, we're going to explain what a Form W-4, also known as the Employee's Withholding Certificate, is used for and why all employees need to complete it when they start a new job. We'll also talk about what employers need to do once their employees are finished filling it out. Sound good? Stay tuned and we'll go through this form step by step so that your employees know how to complete it properly and so you know what you need to do once your employee has filled it out. First, let's talk about what a W-4 is and why it needs to be filled out. A Form W-4 is an IRS tax form that employees fill out when they start a new job. They'll usually do this in the first couple of days after joining a new company as part of their onboarding process. The information in Form W-4 is used to figure the amount of federal income tax to withhold from the employee's paychecks. That's the goal of the form. Basically, all employees have to complete it, whether they're full-time or part-time. And once completed, they should give it to their employer and let them handle the rest. There are a couple of things we need to point out before we start talking about filling out the form. As we mentioned earlier, all employees need to fill out this form. That's very important. You got to make sure you do it if you're an employer. Filling out the form accurately is the responsibility of the employee, and once it's ready to go, the employer must accept the completed form as it's filled out, and they cannot change it. That means that when an employee fills out the form, you just have to accept whatever they say. One last thing to keep in mind, if the employer does not receive a completed W-4 from an employee, they're authorized by the IRS to withhold federal income tax at the single, also known as the no deductions rate, and we'll talk about that more shortly. But basically that just means they're treating them like a single taxpayer if the employee hasn't said anything different by filling out the form. Just so you know, as an employer, it's okay to help with general questions when someone is filling out the form, but you need to remember that you're really not supposed to instruct employees on what to do or how to complete it. As we talked about earlier, the employee is responsible for completing it, and they should know more or less what they need to add. You can describe the process and tell them the options that the form offers, but filling out the form is up to them, and you shouldn't do it for them. Next, let's walk through the form together. The first step on Form W-4 is for the new employee to add their personal information. This includes their first and last name, their physical address, their marital status, and their social security number, which is for identification purposes. That step's pretty easy and shouldn't take very long to fill out. Step 2. Step 2 needs to be filled out if the employee is working more than one job at a time, or if they file jointly with a spouse. If either of these is true, the IRS wants them to do one of three things. Option number 1 is to use the IRS website to estimate their withholdings for steps 3 and 4. They should use this option if the employee or their spouse earns self-employment income. The second option is to fill out the multiple jobs worksheet, which is on page 3, and then enter the result on step 4, letter C, which is called extra withholding. Option number 3, if there are only 2 jobs total, meaning that either the employee has 2 jobs or they and their wife each have 1 job, then they should check the box to the right of this option. They'll have to do the same thing on the W-4 that they fill out for the other job. Step 3. This step relates to claiming dependents, children or otherwise, and any other credits that the employee might take. Dependents who are the taxpayer's children are worth $2,000 each, so they should multiply all their kids by $2,000. Dependents who are not children, like elderly parents, non-child family members, and other dependents, are good for $500 each, so multiply all non-child dependents by $500. You'll end up adding those up at the end. These are just rates that the IRS prescribes, and it's based on the amount of responsibility that parents have for children or for other dependents. Step 4 is where we calculate other adjustments, like adding other income that isn't from jobs on line 4A, subtracting itemized deductions like charitable contributions or medical expenses on line 4B, and finally, line 4C is for adding any extra withholdings that the employee wants to take. On this line, the employee can add any withholdings they want their employer to withhold from their paycheck each period. It's unusual for people to fill this out, as it isn't legally necessary, but they can withhold more taxes than necessary if they choose to. Some people use this as a savings account and basically allow their employer to save their money for them. The last step, which is step 5, is to sign the form, either by printing it out and signing it physically, or by signing it digitally using a service like DocuSign or another similar program. And then you're done. Now that we've filled out the form, let's talk about what happens after the form's been completed. Once the employee signs the document and you, as the employer, complete the employer section, then congrats, you're done and you now have a completed Form W-4 for your new employee. You do not need to send this form to the IRS once you've finished. Instead, you'll keep a copy of it on your records for that employee for up to 4 years. We recommend saving it in a dedicated physical or digital employee file, along with any other documentation you have for that employee. Thanks for tuning in to our quick lesson on how to complete a Form W-4 and why it's important for employers to make sure their new employees take care of it once they start working. We'll see you next time.